Hello, Rachel.
Hello, Ryan. How are you?
I am doing very, 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 very well. I'm excited.
For the coup?
Oh, I'm always excited for the coup, of course. But, Rachel, there's no coup to be had here. I am just, I'm an unbiased party. I have no agenda here, although I have extreme power because of Yum Yum. There's no way that this could be misconstrued into anything other than that. I'm just here to give you the power, Rachel. The power.
That's not a coup.
It's not a coup. Not at all, because we all agree. It's all fine. It's all above board. No need to worry about it. No need to stress about it. How about yourself? How are you doing?
Good. I'm ready for the coup.
Okay, she's ready, everyone. She's ready, Freddy, and we are the...
A coup by any other name.
Yum Yum is the one we use for it. So, I got Rachel, good. She's smiling. We are Yum Yum Podcast because of an amazing line of dialogue from another science fiction series. No, not The Expanse. That is the show that we are covering today. That's the show we are talking about. But Yum Yum has not been uttered in The Expanse because they're cowards.
Not yet.
They're afraid. Who do you think could say Yum Yum in The Expanse?
But that's not the game that we play with The Expanse.
But I'm asking you right now.
Have you not asked me this?
Yeah, but we've had a whole new cast of characters since whenever I asked you. And outside of the Gaunt Belter.
Yeah, I'd have luck.
I have my answer, but do you have one?
Amos's fuck buddy.
Way?
Yeah.
It's so remarkable because we are on a similar but not the exact same wavelength because I chose Burn Gorman, aka Murtry. After he shot that belter, he would have licked his lips and said yum yum in a British accent, of course. But Yum Yum does not come from The Expanse. It came from Star Trek Discovery. It was a line of dialogue so outrageous, so just
pivotal,
migraine-inducing that it has never left us. And so we named the podcast after it. And we as a husband and wife team have a shared interest, which is we enjoy watching science fiction television. We like it.
Yeah.
And we are first-time watchers of The Expanse. This is all new to us.
Don't tell us anything.
I'll wag my finger if you tell us anything that we... Like, pretty much let us go in as blind as possible. We haven't read the behind-the-scenes stuff. We haven't partaken in the books or the games or any of the other side material. We are watching the show as it is, one episode at a time. This is new to us. We were too busy watching other shows when this one was on, and
like Discovery.
This is the power of math, people! Come on!
You are correct, MC.
What does the penultimate of the penultimate have to say for itself?
You don't want its title? Because I'll gladly skip that because I'm worried about saying it wrong.
I said it wrong last time. You say it wrong this time. Go.
Winnipesaukee.
Sure. I'm not from there. I can't get offended.
Yeah, you're not from New Hampshire.
I'm not from New Hampshire. Could you tell?
Could you tell that Amos, Clarissa, and a gang of thieves work together to leave Earth? Avasarala tries to head off a brutal military strike. Drummer's new family bonds are tested as Naomi's life hangs in the balance.
No, I couldn't tell those things. Should I have watched the episode to know that?
Yeah.
Rachel. Yum Yum wasn't just a line of dialogue, was it? Something a bit more special for us.
Yes. Yeah. There is a central part of Yum Yum, which is weirdly horny. So, with The Expanse, we ask, what made you feel yum yum? Like a little excited, little horny, sexual tension, all of those good things. What made you feel yum yum in this episode, Ryan?
The Expanse is a harsh mistress when it comes to the sexual stuff because it front loads you, it teases you, it gives you nipples of the female variety on the occasion, it gives you a sex scene when you least expect it, but then it doesn't give you anything. And this is an episode in which I struggle to tell you what was something horny. I have to go off of the vapors, the fumes of things. What did I look at and say, yum, yum? And the closest I'll give you is a nice, firm reminder of the polycule again.
Okay.
Drummer and her lover talking about being in love in a group setting. And I thought back to the days in which we saw the throuple cuddle and the bodies everywhere and nudity, and I was like, oh, memories. But is that actually this episode? No, it isn't.
Just it reminds you of hornier times.
And I can't just choose characters who I find the actor attractive, like, oh yeah, sure, Clarissa Mao was in the episode, so that's a yum yum. Like, yeah, she's an attractive lady, sure, but is that enough? No, I didn't even get a hint of buttock in this one, and so I can't really vote for her. And what, Monica? I think she's very attractive, but she just kind of stands there, just looking around. Maybe gets a line.
My automatic Amos pick was Amos carrying Eric's right hand woman back to the shuttle as she shoots.
Pretty good.
I was like, yeah, fuck yeah. Not very horny, but it was fun.
I'll give you fun. Did you have a regular selection? I noticed that you managed to jump over that hurdle without really getting into it.
Eric saying, fuck this, and exploding everything. I was very excited about that, but just not in a sexual way.
What did you think of this episode? This is the penultimate episode of a rather big season.
It had some fun moments. And then it had some good moments, but it didn't fully gel for me.
This was a step up from where we were last episode, and thank goodness for that, because you want to look forward to the end of the season for things to ratchet up.
Excited for what's coming, not scared.
And while I was watching the episode, I was appreciating it, but I wasn't in love with it per se. I had a good time. There were some fist pump moments, and there were some nice little observations had by characters. But as I've had a moment to really chew on the episode, think about it, look back on some scenes in my memories, and really try and think about what the entire thing was getting at, I actually quite enjoyed this. I think this is one of the stronger episodes, maybe not the strongest, but it has some of my favorite things in it.
Well paced in terms of the scenes and also balancing the plots.
This was one that I find to be a grower in my mind. Who knows, maybe when we get to the end of the season and do our recap, this could go up a few notches for me. But currently speaking, this is one in which I'm glad that we took a little bit of time to get to the recording rather than just instantly after we watch the episode sit down and discuss it, because, yeah, about watching it itself, I think there's just some aspects of this season that I'm not as in love with, but I don't hate. And then there are some things, even within an episode like this, that they have a scene dedicated to them, or 2 scenes or 3 scenes, and I'm drawn in, such as all of the stuff with Marco and Philip. It's not huge within this episode, but I have been so invested in what these characters have to offer during the season that I'm not really feeling the annoyance of just, oh, they're here in the episode because we have to check in on them, which is a complaint I have with some of the other stories within this one and a previous. But since I am so enamored with not only the actors and those characters, but what the show is getting at with these two, that I didn't mind that what we get of them is relatively small in nature.
I think it was nice to see their reaction and see how Marco dealt with this news, because we saw him find out, and I was interested to see the way that he played it with Philip, because he is so much a master of manipulation. And the way that it just so naturally comes to him, it seems to phrase it that way and position it this way. And it's just like, oh God, he's just such a shithead.
The performance helps greatly with everything too, because he plays it and they write it too in which there's still ambiguity or wiggle room for interpretation on things, such as at the beginning, what we get from him is not the immediate revelation that Naomi is alive. We find out that his fleet has engaged in a battle with some UNN ships and a Martian ship, I do believe. And there was some casualties, some heavy casualties. Like, it was a win, but at a great cost. And it was for the, which faction was it? The Golden Bow faction, I think they're called. And I cannot recall off the top of my head. I'd have to double check, but were they one of the ones that voted to kill him last season?
Well, quite possibly.
Because we know he's gone after ones that did in a previous episode, but he still is doing the whole I'm enlisting you. And there's this thing where he reacts to the news. And I don't know which way to interpret his reaction of, is he trying to put on a brave face for the rest of the crew he's talking to, that this encounter was actually bad for them? He's trying to do the typical Marco confidence of like, well, it was worth the price of it all in the end. Or is he just being extra dickish because those people are more expendable than other belters because they're a faction he doesn't respect? What do you think about that? Because it's like a brief moment, but I didn't know which way to pull at it, because this character and this performance allows the interpretations.
Yes, it does. I took it as, well, everybody's expendable to him as long as it furthers the cause. They won. They caused harm to the enemy. Thus, it's a success. I didn't think about it more than that, to be honest.
I think about it because he's then immediately loses his cool, because he's so cool and collected and just in charge, and then he gets the news about Naomi and he's smashing his fist on the console, losing it, getting emotional, getting teary-eyed, fuming. And you can tell people looking around at him, and he just was such a master in the room a moment ago, only to just flip the switch like that and show vulnerability, show weakness, show that things get under his skin. And that's what I love about Marco and Naomi. We don't even need to have them in the same room for their dynamics to work, because he is getting fucked over by Naomi and she's not even here.
She somehow managed to make a hard vacuum transit to the Chetzemoka before it got underway. She's aboard it now. She didn't walk into that airlock out of sadness or despair or remorse.
He is using this revelation as a tactic for his son. He could withhold it. And I really do feel in that scene, you can see the gears in his head turning at Philip's reaction of, should I tell him she's alive or should I keep this to myself? How can I play him right now? What's the best opportunity for me in the room? And he decides, to my surprise actually, to tell Philip she's alive. I was thinking he was going to withhold that, but instead he tells Philip, oh, she's alive, and then he spins it a bit more. He grabs the knife of her life and twists it in Philip's heart. Just that bit more. What did you feel about the Philip Marco conversation?
I was just like, oh, he's really trying to use this as a tool to turn him against her. And it's prime ammunition for that. Why didn't I fucking think of that?
Philip's reaction is understandably very volatile. But how do you react to him? What do you interpret from his reaction to things?
Not much beyond what's there. Like, he is overwhelmed because he was grieving and trying to grapple with those feelings because his relationship with his mother is quite complicated. And now to have it flipped around and she didn't die, she killed somebody else that I loved, and she's abandoned me again.
I read it as, because it's all physical. He's grunting, he's squealing in pain, he's thrashing around the room, he's smashing stuff. Marco has to restrain him, physically restrain him to get him to understand more things. I kind of take it as like a great place of where Philip's psyche is, in which he is thrashing around between the two parents, because
animalistic.
It's animalistic because he can see that Marco's doing exactly what she said he does. But also, he feels, because of the 17 or 15 or however many years old Philip is supposed to be, years of experience of being told that's how she would go about things, he's seeing both of them be true in front of his eyes, but both of them counter each other at the same time. And so he's left as this wounded creature in the middle, not sure of what to do other than to scream out in pain. Like, that's how I reacted to the scene. Naomi did leave to escape them. Like, Marco is correct in some fashion.
But his presentation is misleading. Like, if he hadn't have directly threatened Holden, she probably wouldn't have gone. Like, he's threatening to destroy her partner and her home because she's like, the Rossi is her home, right?
But it's also Philip's plan, apparently, remember? And he backhanded her to let her know that he's the one that's going to do this. So she is escaping Philip as well.
Yeah, because she feels like she's lost it. Like, she's lost the battle for his soul as well.
She's a fighter, though. She has that belief and mantra of the choice is always to walk away. But when we see her on her own within this episode, again, very brief, very compact, but filled with meaning. And I think this all works because we've had episodes on end of character-driven stuff with these three. She's doing what exactly, though? Like, what is happening with Naomi in the episode?
So she's trying to gather water from some ice because, they stripped the ship bare, so there's no water there. But she needs that to survive, and she's been exerting herself quite a bit. So it was a nice attention to detail that she was struggling for that.
But it's a desperate act because she's probably sweating out more than she's drinking.
Yeah. It's so minimal what she manages to get.
But that's also her problem.
Mm-hmm.
Everything she does is so minute, so small in the hopes of something paying off. Her struggle to just break apart the message so that she can warn her friends not to come or let her friends know that everything is okay. She's basically killing herself bit by bit by bit, and now here she is doing it on this scale of something even more recognizable, which is water.
Yep.
You need that to survive, and she's trying to get water in a way that's killing her.
Yeah. It's like she'll die if she doesn't try, so she's got to do something. And then she manages to get the helmet screen working again because, she collapses and conveniently sees a wire thing and then it...
It's a wire like connected to
Yeah.
the ships, like all the stuff that
Yeah,
they've rigged
but
up, and it's
she
like
can-
a broken wire, like a bit of
Yeah.
it's frayed away.
Yeah. Then she comes up with another plan and goes back out into the rest of the ship.
What happened on the helmet though? So she wired the helmet up, but what did it give her?
It gave her a view of the approaching ships.
It gave her a lay of the land or space. And I really thought that the actress did a marvelous job within this one, especially when she's getting the information that they are on their way to her, that her message, that her disruption didn't work. She doesn't know if it made any impact or not. They are still just barreling down towards her, and she knows that it's a trap. She knows it's going to kill them. And I thought that the actress just nailed the kind of mania of it all.
Agreed. Like, the desperation is palpable.
And do you have any thoughts on what her plan is? I know that we could do this for predictions, but since we're here right now talking about Naomi, she's wired up this helmet to tell her what's happening outside of the ship, and then we see her close the door and we just hear furious banging, and we know she has like her routine of how to get around on the ship and stuff, and she has the tools to bang on stuff, but what do you think she's up to?
I assume that it has something to do with her getting comm control back, because the communication didn't work and she's already kind of tried to dismantle the bomb, and it's like, it's too thorough.
I'm thinking of the wild move of she's getting the stuff on her helmet to tell her where the ship is coming from so that she can jettison herself from her ship and fly towards her friends, hoping that they'll pick her up rather than come to the ship and get exploded.
Another hard vacuum trip.
Yeah, I don't know, but I like the ambiguity of this one because, again, it doesn't take up a large portion of the episode, but it didn't take away. Like, do you feel the same? And if so, why? Because we've had issues, and we will probably talk about some of them in a moment, about these plot strands that are so minute in an episode that you wonder, are they serving a point? Why is this being stretched across 4 episodes instead of 2?
Yes. I think a part of it is that it thematically matches this plot of like the struggle for survival and the minute being meaningful. So it doesn't feel as out of place that we're just checking in on Naomi. Also, because it is the penultimate episode, that kind of thing I just accept and expect.
So when we first picked this up, The distress call said she had no control of nav. Now some random comm malfunction just happens to turn that into I am in control 4 times in a row. That really seemed random to you?
The show knows. I'm convinced now. The show itself knows that Alex and Bobby are fucking useless. Because Alex poses a question
Correct.
and they don't even bother having Bobby fucking answer.
She answers later.
But like within the scene where he asks the question,
Everyone
like,
else gets a
it's
turn.
framed like with her in the background, and she's just kind of there. Like she doesn't even nod or anything. They're just like,
Yeah. Because they get the message that Naomi has disrupted, and there's a quandary of what does this mean? Is there something wrong? Is this a ploy? Is this a trap? Or is this something has gone awry for Naomi, or she's letting us know that she's okay, but we should probably still go over to her? Everyone's stroking their chins, but no one's thinking we shouldn't go. If anything, it eggs them on to go to her even more. The only person who's skeptical enough is Alex, in my opinion. We touch base with Alex and Bobby and Holden and the Rocinante, and relatively speaking, it's good. It got my blood pumping of, yeah, they're on their way to do the right thing, but the right thing is going to get them killed. That's, that on a primal level, I care. But as I've expressed in some previous episodes, I'm just so dissatisfied with how this type of storytelling has been the thing afforded to all of these characters for pretty much half of the season and some change. Which
we've been stuck in this gear for a while.
I'm not really learning anything. I'm not really experiencing anything. I'm not really garnering anything out of cutting over to James Holden and Alex and Bobby and just the Rocinante, as they just get a scene or two in an episode to convey the same points over and over again. Yes, we've defined them differently slightly, but what's happening in this episode I kind of gathered from the last episode, and so on, like with James Holden. What is there to say about James Holden in this episode?
I don't have anything to say about him, do you?
There's this question in the air that they keep bringing up. The show keeps bringing it up, but I want to know if you have felt it and if you're concerned about it, which is he is getting slowly more and more personally invested and reckless in his leadership, that he's willing to endanger everyone to get Naomi back. That's a thing that keeps being brought up by the show. Like Bull and Monica keep being the doubting Thomases in the room and keep giving each other side eye, and Bull keeps saying stuff like, oh geez, I don't know about that. I mean, we might not have enough fuel anyway, so we should turn back. But I don't feel it.
No, I don't feel it either. Like, I have too much trust in Jim at this point to question that. It might also be because I don't I don't really feel his love for Naomi. So I'm like, he'll make the right call in the end. And also because I'm like, what was in that message that she left him?
I'm not opposed to the idea that Holden is feeling lonely, and yet he still has to command, yet he still has to do the protagonist thing, yet he still has to save the day. And like with Drummer, have to make the call of doing the bigger picture rather than the smaller one, of like, oh, I have to abide by how the system around me needs me to function rather than my own personal happiness. Both of them have to be willing to sacrifice Naomi for something else. And obviously with Holden, it's far more noble. It's far more like within his control. Like he's the leader of it, but everyone's expecting him to do the thing. Monica is expecting him to be James Holden, the guy who takes care of the proton molecule, and Bull's expecting him to be Fred Johnson, and that's interesting on paper. But we haven't spent any time to get in his headspace. Here's what drives me crazy. We know Stephen Strait can do this because
He's done it already.
Remember back in season 3 when he first got Miller in his head, and then for the back half of the season, everyone was questioning his sanity because he looked and acted like a crazy person? And we knew that there was something going on. We knew more than the characters did. But on just the surface level, Stephen Strait got to portray a frayed Holden, a Holden that we recognize but also don't. I'm wondering this. Think back, Rachel. Think back to the series. Is this the first time Naomi and Holden have been fully separated from each other? Because even with Illis, she was up above. Like, he knew where she was. He knew she was okay, or relatively speaking. They could get in contact. But this is a full season of them not knowing how each other is and not being in contact. And so, is that supposed to add some of that oomph factor to him being questionable in leadership?
Yeah, I guess so. And, like, we are meant to be afraid for Naomi's life. And, you know, her partner would obviously want to do something about that.
Was it too subtle? Or am I reading into it that
Mhm.
when he was left alone on the Rocinante and he had that moment of being like, I'm alone. His mug is flying in the air, the ship is empty. And then when, after that, he was up in everyone's business about fixing the Rocinante, like he was being all nosy, and same with Fred Johnson and same with Monica, like he's just sticking his nose in a bit more than it needs to be. Is that like a subtle way of showing that that's him coping with being without Naomi? Like, without Naomi, he can't help himself but throw himself into other bullshit.
I guess I took it more broadly as he's feeling lonely because he's the one left on the ship. Everybody else that makes the Rossi home is gone.
Was what they portrayed with that enough to have built upon where we are now, in which now he has a crew of somewhat strangers to him being concerned that he can fly off the handle because of that delicate mental landscape?
I don't know how much is there and how much we just want there to be something.
Because they keep coming back to Bull and Monica giving each other the raised eyebrow at Holden's actions. And I know that he's the main character, and so I have a lot of context for him, and you and I have a lot of affection for him now, that we may be cutting him a bit more slack than he's deserving, but I honest to God don't understand why they are so skeptical about what he's doing. Like, he has acted professionally in this entire mission. He keeps being like, of course we're going to get rid of the protomol. Like, he keeps...
We have no evidence for his incompetence.
And he is not playing it in a way where it tips the hand for why I think the other characters are reacting the way they are. So I don't know if that's a fault of the performance or the fault of the writing or just it's us, but they keep reacting like he's unhinged or he could fall off the deep end any time now. And I'm just watching plain Jane James Holden just being
his job,
being
like,
a decent guy doing his job.
Like, it's his job to save everybody and to save the galaxy, and he's just doing his job.
The thing that bothers me is he's gone out of his way to delegate. That's the thing too. He went out of his way to be like, okay, we're not going to deal with the Naomi stuff, but we have people over here who are convenient and have the ability to do it, so let's send them over while we do this.
This makes sense. It wasn't, we're going to burn everything that we've got and maybe not be able to get back anywhere to, like, get there to Naomi first.
Like, I'm actually getting, like, a bit heated about this because I really like this episode overall, but there are these things that have been season-long issues or things that rub up against me. And it reminds me of season 1 with Holden more, because I think in season 1 that's related to this is the book would make sense because you're seeing it from the character's POV. You're in their head. You're hearing their thoughts. You're hearing their perspectives on the world. And I need that of Holden for this season. I need to be able to get in his head, because without that, I'm just watching him be normal, like functional, like reasonable. And everyone else is giving him shit. And I don't know why. Well, with Illis in season 4, he had so much shit thrown his way that he couldn't get any sleep. Remember the start of this season when he's like, I'm tired all the time, actually? I actually think that this is probably the season in which he's probably been the most well-rested.
If it is intentional, why be so cryptic? Why not just come out and say what's going on?
All we can do is get there as fast as we can.
We don't exactly have fuel to waste. But I'll see if we can increase our burn.
I have a slight gripe, which is somebody pointed out, shared with us, that the actress of Drummer is pregnant in this season. And now that's all I can fucking notice is how it's just chest up. Only chest up and wearing a big bulky vest and a high turtleneck.
See, maybe that's something you tell us at the end of the season, so then we can think back on it and go, oh, that's interesting. See, this is what we mean about spoilers, where some of them aren't bad, like some of these little behind-the-scenes stuff are cute, but then some of them get in your brain. But at the same time, that may have been something known to everyone when this show came out.
I'm not saying that people wouldn't have known that, but I'm saying now knowing that, that's what I see first.
Whenever I think about how productions have to hide pregnancies,
You think of The Nanny?
I think of The Nanny, in which Cece Babcock, who, by the way, that actress, while doing this exchange, is heavily pregnant herself and doing the exact same things that she's criticizing other shows of doing.
You know, Maxwell, I can't believe what they get away with on TV these days. I was watching this rerun of Seinfeld, and Elaine must have been, 12 months pregnant. And they didn't even acknowledge it. They just kept hiding her behind these huge props.
This one I found frustrating because, her loyalty is being tested by her lover. And I'm like, but she'll still pick Naomi. I don't believe her.
Well, because we know Drummer.
Yeah.
We know her better than her own lover does.
Yeah, and I kind of wish that it was played more clearly that the lover doesn't believe her either. But I don't know.
I think it's so tricky because the entire situation Drummer is in is actually what I want to feel of Holden, of she's a leader who's doing her usual stuff, but everyone's questioning her. But you understand why, because they're in such a dangerous situation in which everything could collapse around them. And as things go along, they become, the leader, in this case Drummer, becomes more and more and more and more in despair because she's trying to hold on to the things that she finds to be true to herself. But everyone is using that against them because Drummer wants to save her friend, wants to save a person she loves, but she also wants this person who she loves to tell her the fucking truth and treat her like a person and to recognize all the sacrifices she's willing to make and has made. To be all in. But everyone is cutting her off at the knees. And so we get to see the actress playing Drummer play not just the usual Drummer who's like badass, who's stoic and, can really snarl at the camera, but we're seeing one who cries. One who
vulnerable.
Gets, vulnerabilities.
And it's not that Drummer wasn't vulnerable when she was on Tycho or when she was on the Behemoth. It's now she's in a place where she can wear that vulnerability more openly. Like, she has a person that she can just be herself with freely. Whereas her interactions were always measured in one way or another, even if it was that she was letting go of the facade. That decision was calculated.
And her relationship with this lover and the entire, crew was something deeply personal, because what we've seen of her character, whether it is through her job and or her personal relationships, was always second fiddle. She was the second fiddle to Fred Johnson. She was trying to be the leader of something, but it was under doing it for Fred, and then Ashford was trying to steal it out from under her. But then we had season 4, in which both her and Ashford were deeply unhappy with their positions, but they were also still opposed. And so this season, Drummer has found herself. She's found where she needs to be. She's comfortable with the sacrifices she's had to make. And now that's all been taken away from her. And she has to put on a smile and play second fiddle again. But she doesn't want to. And it's not just second fiddle in terms of like running the ship. It's about her personal relationships now.
Okay. I feel more for the belt because I feel for Drummer. Because she is constantly being pulled and tugged and dictated to, and she doesn't want to be on the top and she doesn't want to be on the bottom, and being in the middle in the churn is making her miserable too. And it's just like the belt wants to fight for its independence, but is being told that it's not ready for its independence and it needs to be told what to do, but it doesn't, like, it can't listen, and it's not a united thing. And I'm seeing a bunch of that reflected in Kamina's character.
Everyone keeps asking her for things. The right-hand woman of Marco is obviously being villainous and cruel and rubbing it in Drummer's face that she's powerless and she has to do as they're told or else they die. And you are going to have to fall in line because this is the way of the world around you. But then we have her lover having to tell her to pick. Drummer ideally would love to be able to express that I love Naomi as much as I love you. And that should be a good enough. And ideally, you all would
need me to quantify my love for you as well.
We started out the season with all of them being willing to follow each other into hell, such as going after Ashford,
working as a really cohesive crew.
But now there's barriers, literal ones that they have to break through. I really loved the direction, the blocking.
The blocking of the door. Yeah.
And going back to that quandary about the performance of the lover and if it's in this place, I think it's because her, like, the way she's playing this character is the character is not bought in on any side of things.
No.
But she's trying desperately to grab at something, but then when she does, she's pulled away from something else.
She wants to be grounded, but she can't find her feet. I'm wondering if they're going to set up that she's either going to betray Marco's inside woman to protect Drummer, or she's going to, on purpose or accidentally, betray Drummer to the right-hand woman.
I think
I feel like that, they've set that up too clearly for it not to pay off next episode.
What I feel is there is a level of unfairness between Drummer and the let's call them the crew, the family, because Drummer doesn't love them. as much as she loves Naomi. She says she does, but she doesn't. That's how we look at it. But it's also unfair because they're expecting her to quantify love. They're expecting her to quantify it and to define it in this way that equates to loyalty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's also that she is a prideful woman, right? And she lost Ashford. She lost him. And she doesn't like making the same mistake twice. So losing Naomi through her own choices, like, it doesn't feel like that could be a decision that Drummer could live with.
They don't trust her. And yet they're telling her to keep debasing herself. And sacrificing to prove to them and to secure their feelings.
Intertwined too. Like, the more you trust somebody, often the deeper the love goes. And because there is this barrier of mistrust now, it's sort of pushing out the love, or it was never that deep to begin with. Because, like, they are, not, like, they're deeply connected to each other, but they don't have the same time that Naomi and Kamina had.
We can talk about all of this, the interpersonal conflicts. What is love? What is loyalty? Like, all of these nuances, all of these facets, and that's what is brought out here. But we aren't forgetting that this is in a framework of a narrative, of a television show, in which why the characters are reacting this way under extreme circumstances that come with the genre and the themes that they're wanting to tap into. So why they're doing this, why this is here, is because there's this ongoing struggle and debate about fighting back or keeping your head down low. When do you stand up and say enough's enough? Or when do you put down your guns and say this is enough? And that's where the impasse is happening on the structural level of this relationship, in which the family are wanting to survive and live.
The same struggle that Amos and Clarissa are going through.
And that's what is so great about the episode to me, is it has these parallels, it has these bleed-throughs, it has these mirrorings, but they're all still separated and unique, and you get something out of them different to one another. Yes. But we're not losing the thread of, yes, these things are happening because plot conveniences and machinations, but you're allowed to dig deeper in an episode like this, rather than just, we went from plot A to plot B to plot C to plot D, on, like we have in the past and with other shows. Because with Drummer's stuff, I really like that too, of just, they are butting heads because Drummer wants to fight back. Yeah. Drummer says, we are who we are. We are belters. We are proud. We shouldn't have to we shouldn't have to bow down to these fanatics, these people who are getting off on our misery. But then the family, the crew, represented in her lover, but in all of them, argue the very real point of, we'll die. You know that, right?
Yeah. You will cost all of us our lives if you do this. Which it almost feels like a threat.
But there's a sympathy there, because what would you do?
Yeah, because,
what would you do? You would look out for yourself.
I need you to understand the stakes, and these are the stakes. But it really feels like her lover is threatening Drummer with that.
I think that's reinforced because her lover has not only a working relationship, but a slightly more friendly one than anyone else does with Marco's right-hand woman. There's still a level of intimidation and fear, but she's the one that gets on with or can interact the best with that character than anyone else in the crew. And I think that just feeds into this division.
You can't save her! You know what happens when someone goes against Marco? If we are disloyal now, we'll be killed. Not just you, not just me, but all of us. I beg you to respect that.
Usually, Holden is the person who represents the paragon and the middle ground of the two things, because he's someone that knows when to stop, but also knows that stopping can be a mistake. Fighting back is important. But in this episode, I think it's Christian that kind of represents that, where she's the one that says, nah, fuck this, I'm out. But also, because of that, she's able to take actions and further things because it's a wise move. Well, say, in the Amos plot, they arrive at the place that Clarissa has told them about, where there's going to be a shuttle that can take them into space and go to Luna. And surprise, surprise, Rachel, did you see this one coming? The shuttle's broken, of course.
Oh no.
And did you adore, because he's your favorite boy, how Amos narrowed down what it could be?
It was so much. Oh, this is a script.
I mean, is it? Because both you and I have had relatives, our dads, who have been really into like tradey stuff, mechanic stuff. How often have you heard that of like, oh, I've narrowed it down, it could be, and they like list 3 things that basically cover any problem
Yes.
for the thing that they're working on.
Oh, I was thinking about when he solves it. When he's just
right.
like, oh, it's the coupling.
Yeah, but I like how real that felt too, because I've been in his shoes in which you've been too close to the problem to be able to solve it. And when you step away and you're no longer thinking about it, oh, that's what I have to do. But I really like the authenticity. It really makes me think about how my dad is when it comes to problems of being like, in this case of the ship, it's like, well, it's 3 things. It's a mechanical, electrical, or like software or whatever it is. And it's like, well, so it could be anything then. It's like, yeah, but once we start working on each one of those things, we'll find the problem in the end. It's like, yeah, I guess so. And hey, isn't it convenient, Rachel, and lucky that there are 3 individuals who happen to be the named main characters that can help solve this with...
What? Oh no! I'm so surprised!
If you put a gun against my head and asked, do you think Eric's a master hacker? I would have said no. Not in a million years.
We knew that he was tech savvy enough because we knew that he was the one that put together Amos's new identity.
I didn't think about that as a tech-related thing,
I
more of like, I've got power now, so I can get this done. But I guess you're right. You know what? I should have tipped me off. Just look at him. That's a nerd right there. That's a dweeb. Can I just say, as praise to the actor, I fucking love the performance of Eric. I love him because this character's foul-mouthed. He's always swearing. He's so insecure.
So blunt.
He's so blunt. He has no filter. But what makes it so just epic is the actor who portrays him is intimidating. Like you could tell like you shouldn't fuck with this guy in some way. So you can believe he's a gangster in some fashion. But he just has a certain pitch in his voice that is whiny. Like, this is a whiny man.
Yeah.
He's such a whinger.
I think of the word prissy.
Yeah. It's funny. It's funny to hear him be like, fuck no. Like
when he's so pissed. When he's like, Timmy fucking backed peaches over me.
But
That's not the Timmy I know.
And I don't know how to verbalize it. Everything that I'm saying and where you're saying is true, but at the same time, the way that the actor plays him, like with all of those things I've just said, he's likable. Like, I like Eric. Like,
It works.
and it's not just like, he's a lovable prick, but like, he seems like a genuine person.
Yes, but he is still a prick.
Yeah, but like, I agreed with him a lot, so I didn't feel like he was like unreasonable.
But not in the you dickhead friend kind of way.
No, it's just somebody who's
different than that.
Somebody who is protective and neurotic. He has just such an authenticity to him. And I'm so happy. I'm so fucking happy that we have good side characters again in this show. Because season 5 has been delivering on these great side characters with these like fantastic performances in which I'm going to remember Eric when we finish the show. He'll be in like my list of side characters I really liked because, in this, they're having to fix the ship stuff. It's not that interesting. It's just something to fill out the time, the ticking time bomb of like, they're going to introduce a threat at some point, and the ship has to be fixed before that threat really comes to get them.
Eric insulting the rent-a-cops.
I liked Eric straight up looking at an old lady who is helpless and defenseless and telling them to fuck off.
Yes.
Oh my god.
I
chill on this guy.
I get nothing from helping you. I'm not fucking doing it.
Because that's the thing, right? They're offered a few different problems and they have to solve them in a certain way. And the first one is they find the help in the mansion. And Clarissa says...
They were hiding it in the bunker.
Clarissa says, well, we're going to take them with us. And that causes a bit of friction, but then everyone's like, okay, you know what?
It's like 4 people, okay.
And they're helping us, they're feeding us. And although these people are more upper class than the gang, they all, except for one, have something in common, which is they've had to work for the higher class. Like, they've had to be a worker that benefits others in some way. Like, everything about the churn is just like people like Eric and his gang have had to scrape on by because of the cruelty of the upper class system. The only person who hasn't had that is Clarissa, because she was the upper class system her whole life.
Fucking loved when that housekeeper was just like, oh yeah, you came one time, you fought with your sister the whole time.
Yeah, you were a bitch. Yeah, we hated you. Oh, it was lovely to see your mum, though. She was great. Yeah, my mum cooked this thing. Hey, guys, we don't have enough time to catch up on being princesses.
Loved that. I loved that so much.
And when the other help comes to their place looking for sanctuary and looking for food and other things, Clarissa makes the plea to help them. Not only does she make it a plea, she makes it happen. She's not going to stand to the side and let these men with guns dictate that we're not going to help people. We are always going to help people. We are going to not leave anyone behind.
It's a honest continuation of what she was saying to Amos. I think it was a couple of episodes ago now, where he was just like, well, there's no rules. And she's just like, well, maybe we get to make new rules.
It's a furthering of her journey as well, because she didn't used to believe in this. Not just because of her past as a Mao who grew up as a rich socialite and only cared about herself and her family's legacy, but do you recall what bothered Anna about Clarissa Mao? Like, why Anna had a hard time caring about Clarissa Mao? Do you remember what it was that really got under her skin?
I have the visual, but I can't remember the thing.
She couldn't she couldn't contend with the fact that Clarissa Mao not only killed people, but it was the fact that she didn't help a person that could have been saved with Tilly Fagan. She let Tilly Fagan die. And that's what really bothered Anna. That was a sticking point for Anna of, I have a hard time caring about you because I can't wrap my mind around the fact that you left someone behind to die. And that speech that Anna gave to her really got under Clarissa's skin. She cried because she had no excuses for any of that. Oh, you had a shitty dad? Oh, boo-hoo. Who hasn't? You feel neglected? So have I. Like, it doesn't give you a justification to act like this. And since then, here we are. We've grown the character to the point in which now she is going to risk everyone's lives for saving anyone. We're not going to leave these people behind.
No one else is going to help them. Certainly not the people that own these houses.
Are we going to tell everybody on the fucking island what our plans are?
He's not wrong. This isn't the thing you want to spread around.
You want my help fixing that ship? We don't leave anyone behind who wants to come.
Fine. We'll do it ourselves. Stay here if you want, princess.
I think she was stupid for just telling them to leave. I think they should have detained them in some way. I think that they should have, basically held them hostage until they got the ship ready. Because it was stupid to let that threat go and escalate.
Was that a weakness of the episode and or script, or do you think it fed into the point?
It fed into the point.
And how so?
Because it is a danger to do what she's doing. And it was a threat, and they pointed that out, and they dealt with it. And it worked out in the end. They got off Earth. But she's really fucked up from using her mods. So how well can she fucking pilot?
It's because when she was saying we should put down the guns and we shouldn't do this and let's walk away from this conflict and not go about things in the ways that we have been ingrained in the past, it's idealistic. It's so good
it's
and wise.
hopeful in a world that hope is punished.
But when is the change supposed to start if you don't do any of these things? And that's where she's been failing in the past, in which she's had so many chances given to her to do what she does here. Even if those chances could have led to dire things if she took them, they will still wash her hands clean of the burdens that she's been given in life, that she's given herself. And yeah, it's a dumb move. And maybe there was a medium thing, if Holden was here, he would have probably said, okay, let's take their weapons and then they can go off or whatever. Maybe he would do that. But Holden's not here. Amos is here. And this is where I fucking love Amos, because what does he do, Rachel? He does what? He backs her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He thinks it over and he backs her.
And why does he back her? Why does he do that? Why does he decide Clarissa's non-violence option is what Amos Burton, a guy who is ready to shoot first and ask questions later, guy, why does he do I am that guy? Why is he doing that?
I don't have an exact answer ready for that. Because I think it has to do with he wants to be hopeful about humanity again. So he's trying to go with her and fight against these instincts.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to be a monster.
Because monsters are, killers and monsters, and they're not afraid. He's imprinted on her. Because that's what he does. He sees someone who's morally superior to him, wiser than him, somebody who has their head on straighter than he does, and he tries to replicate them, tries to live up to them, follows their lead, trusts that they know what they're doing. It makes me think back to when he was talking to Miller in the bar and how he's going to back Holden because, well, Holden knows what he's doing a hell of a lot more than I do. You know, he's going to make some choices. Maybe I don't agree with them, but he's probably better at doing it than I ever will be. Or like that whole season in which the lesson at the end of it for him was saying to Naomi, like, I tried to make my own choices and it just didn't work out. It's like, oh, no one can always be right. And I think that's the thing of he is seeing now that Clarissa has reached the point where he is going to try and replicate her. But that was the thing during the season, right? Where she was the project for him, where he was the one trying to teach her a thing or two, trying to help gift her the knowledge of things that he's consumed over the last few seasons. But now she's reached the point where she's gone beyond him.
I think his feelings about his actions have changed, even if his defaults haven't.
That's reflected in a way too with his conversation with like Eric's right-hand person, whose name is Hutch. They have that conversation about, oh, by the way, how nice was it to just have some duologues between some random characters you wouldn't think to put in a room together? Like, this person was in some episodes previously, but, you know, sure, let's have Amos have a deep, meaningful conversation with them. Or, let's have Eric and Clarissa have some banter together.
Let's pair these people.
There was just so much of it in the air of this episode of, it's weird because it's the penultimate.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much in the air of, we have time. We have time to do this. We have time for Amos to have this conversation about staying where you are and like you actually take things with you.
I want to directly say the quote because I loved this line. I was trying to figure out a way if I could make this my yum yum because I loved it so much.
So much. My precious Amos.
Do you think he could take the ring?
He would be corrupted.
He'd be Boromir?
Yeah.
He'd be Boromir.
Yeah, like even quicker than Boromir. Come on.
If Wes Chatham was in Lord of the Rings, who would he play? Is it Boromir? I think it'd be. He's fit. It would be a fun Boromir. I think. I mean, people would say Aragorn, of course, but because he's a muscle. No. He would be. Let him. You know what? Let's go crazy. Let's cast Wes Chatham as Wormtongue. Let the guy act. Don't define him by the muscles, Rachel. Let him be a freaky guy. I want to see Wes Chatham play a freak.
I thought you were going to say Treebeard.
Oh, I mean, he has a good voice, so let him do it. But no, what's your quote that you want to get to?
No one starts over because no one really leaves anything behind.
Talk us through this conversation between these two strangers, relatively speaking.
So, Hutch is lamenting, feeling like they're leaving everything behind and that they worked hard to understand the world of Baltimore. They fought to get to the top and now they're having to abandon everything and start from scratch.
Find their place again.
And I really enjoyed the way that Amos is like, just responding to them being like, I'm feeling this way. And he's just like, been there, done that. I'm feeling like this. Yeah, did that too. Like, no judgments, just camaraderie. Just like, just validating by being like, yeah, that's how I felt too.
This feels like very parental in a weird way of like, oh, trust me, like I've gone through this. When you find you'll find your way.
Back into being a guide and a mentor because he can help this person through the thing that they're struggling with. And he's struggling in one area and Clarissa is helping him with that.
An interesting aspect of the conversation between Clarissa and Eric that goes unsaid but it is said through what we see on the screen and with the casting, is they are talking about tribes. They're coming back to that tribes conversation and being able to bring people in, even if they don't seem like they benefit you. They don't have some sort of thing to exploit, that they aren't proving their worth to you. Because Eric is someone who that matters. That's how he's had to survive. That's how he's had to climb up the ladder. And while with Clarissa, she's the person who's had to watch others do that her whole life, and she's had to schmooze and booze and do all of that shit, but for what purpose? And now she's gone on this journey of recognizing that we shouldn't have to live in a world of survival of the fittest. But Eric thinks otherwise. Eric's like, well, people should prove their worth. People need to be useful. People need to be good for them to matter. But what's interesting is he is someone who is, physically speaking, going against all of those things he says. In this episode, he is saved time and time again by other people because he's physically incapable of looking after himself, because he does have a disability, like this actor who plays him, but also the character, like him, like I didn't notice in other episodes, but like he has a bit of a limp going on, and like he's struggling with the snow and he can barely hold himself up and things like that. But like, think about not just that, but like in the past, why is he alive? Because Amos thought of him as someone who was more than just useful. Amos decided not to kill him, to let him live, because Amos in his own way cared about him in the manner that Clarissa is describing about others. Because if it was just strictly like, you know, how Eric is describing it, Eric would be dead. In the first place, Eric would have been killed because
he wouldn't have built those relationships where those people wanted to save him if he actually acted the way that he's talking.
He's not able to, in this moment, because he's been king of the city, he's not able to see outside of himself and realize that everything that he stands for does not actually apply, like has not fully applied to him. Because if it did, he wouldn't be here in the first place.
Maybe just being people who need help is enough. If we decided to include everyone in our tribe without demanding that they prove we need them, maybe people wouldn't have thrown rocks at us in the first place.
Jesus Christ. Where did Timmy find you?
Serving a life sentence for multiple homicides.
They wrap all of this up with a gruesome, bloody shootout. Mostly one take, if you noticed that. And people are dying left and right. And they get out by the skin of their teeth. And some of the people we got to know and care about don't make it. This sequence relies not on just the flashiness of choreography and camera moves and all that, but sound design. Because one of the most bone-chilling yet exciting things was hearing Clarissa scream in the background of a scene, and you know what she's doing. You know exactly what she's up to. So when we eventually come back to her and there's like a whole slew of dead bodies there and she's fainted on the ground and they have to pick her up, we already know. We don't need to be told anymore.
We didn't need to see that again.
But I loved hearing the scream. Again, I was like, oh, Clarissa's at it again, having to use her mods to absolutely wreck people to, in the end, save people. And my favorite shot in the entire show happened in this episode.
That? Okay.
You know, I'm surprised it's not yours too, because it's Amos's face. Looking out at Earth.
Yeah.
The color of it, the sun rising over.
It was spectacular. I just didn't think about it in terms of like comparing it to the rest of the show, but it was stunning. And it's one of those things when you think about it, you think about, oh, I bought that moment. And that was a lot of work to get that right. Like, that's something that's like, it's almost so simple that it could be overlooked. But the way, like, it makes you feel like he's actually seeing it from space.
It's a growth of the character. he left this hellhole behind, never wanting to come back, never looking back.
And he was saying that he was looking like he
stayed here too long.
Yeah.
He needs to get off this mud ball. A mud ball. And Lydia died hoping that one day he would realize something more and come back. And he's looking at Earth, and there's like a mixture of emotions there, but you can tell he's taking in the beauty of it. And there's a bit of a
He's
sadness.
appreciating it for what it is.
He may never return there again. It's maybe not for him, but there is a growth there of when he was first going there, it was out of obligation.
It's not a rejection anymore.
Were you surprised that the UN did strike the civilian targets?
No. I was pleasantly surprised by the way that Avasarala found out. Because I was like, oh, yeah, they kicked her in the nuts. Like seeing it on the news for the first time. She didn't hear anything about it. She didn't know that it had gone ahead.
But what was the visuals happening there, Rachel? Where was she when she saw the news?
At the memoriam.
She was at the memoriam of all of the civilians and innocent people who have died on Earth.
Get added.
Watching names get added and contemplating adding the name herself for her husband. And through the names of the dead who were massacred, she sees on the news that there are innocent people who have been massacred by her own people.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives her not only fury, but despair.
Yep.
She rocks up to the council. She says her piece about the matter, about how we should not be doing this. We should not be escalating the violence. And they are shutting her down. Not everyone, of course, but the Admiral, the Secretary General, they are just dismissing her because, she doesn't have it in her. She doesn't get what we have to do here. What we have to do here is eradicate them now. We can go after the big targets like Ceres. It's millions of people on there. We'll deal with it. What's that? Anderson Dawes is there? Yeah, he's an ally to us, but he'll never go against Marco. So fuck him. He's an enemy in the end.
Justification.
It's so bizarre to see a moment in which I actually went, not Anderson Dawes. And actually go, he's a good guy. And then it's because we haven't seen Jared Harris in like 5 years. So, I don't have to see him and be reminded, he's not a good dude. Like in my memory, it's like, well, relatively speaking, he's a good guy. But I don't have Jared Harris being like, hello there, I'm evil Jared Harris, who you always see in things being evil.
I love the hand gestures.
I'm doing wiggly hand gestures because Jared Harris did a lot of hand gestures. That's a difference in performance style between him and Marco. Marco doesn't do as many like performative hand gestures as Anderson Dawes does. That's a neat detail. But thereafter, bloodshed, the UN. And Christian has had enough. And she tries to appeal to them with reason, with facts, with logic, with the obvious. And none of those are working. So what does she do? What is her big play that she has?
She walks away.
Well, before she walks away, she decides to play the emotional card.
She's just like, no, like, don't tell me that I'm doing it for this reason. Like, I have this at stake. Don't diminish my loss. I lost my husband. And, I think we know that a part of that is not only that she's lost her husband, somebody that she loves, but she's lost the chance to reconcile with him.
And in her own mind, blames herself for his death in the long run. Because she couldn't save him.
He might have been on Luna if
things were different. And none of this would have happened if she maybe tried harder, because that's how she blames herself for so much. And that's why...
If she was still the Secretary General, then she would have stopped all of the rocks, right?
That's what makes the scene hit so hard, because it's not her playing a game here. She realizes, I have to be honest here. This is all driven by emotion, which is what they use against her. It's like, well, we can't decide these things through emotion. That's the whole fucking point of any of what you're doing, is the UN are striking back at the belt because of emotions, because the Secretary General in charge is too incompetent to realize that just because you're satisfying the bloodlust of the people doesn't mean you're actually helping the people.
Yeah, like attacking... His defense is that we need to defeat the enemy and protect Earth, and believes that striking out is the best way to do that.
But also saying to Christian, after she says that we need to get in touch with our emotions and have empathy, do not think about this through emotions, because we're not, when they clearly are. That's the whole point. This is revenge.
Oh, yeah. And I think, like, the way that that's really echoed in the general's statement of, I want to be the one to kill Marco.
Because she makes this whole point of, like, Marco's a rogue element.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to fuck them up from the inside as well.
Yes.
He's fucking us up, but he's going to fuck them up, and they're going to turn against him. It's obvious. It's terrorism 101. You're going to see the fall. And oh my God. Did she listen to our podcast? Because she had that line of, like, oh, so just because Marco does it, you're going to copy him now? Like, oh, just because
he's our model?
He's our role model now, is he? So we should emulate him?
I loved that.
And so she leaves, as you said.
Yes, and takes half of the cabinet with her.
She does what Naomi says is the only choice, to walk away.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that conviction
Yep. And then
works out
very quickly. Hey, you want to be the Secretary General again?
We don't even need to see her say yes.
It's like, what would you say if you were asked to serve again? It's just like...
Cut to her in the Admiral's office, and he turns the corner and sees her just there smiling, and he's like, oh shit, you're the new Secretary General?
Oh, fuck.
Fuck. Damn it, shit.
And of course you won.
He wants to go off and kill Marco and hunt Marco and serve his pride. But what did you feel about...
The joke?
No, well, yeah, but her proposition.
That
he should stay on and be her right hand and be the person that
because she still
guides her.
She still trusts him, even though he went behind her back. He trusts her intention. She trusts his intentions, I think, is the underlying thing.
She also
the fact
needs...
that she trusts him.
She also needs someone who's strong enough to...
say no to her?
To argue against her, yeah. Which is what Arjon used to be. Her husband in 4th season, that's what he served as. And she didn't listen to him. And now she wants people like that in her corner. And she actually wants to weigh up what they say, even if she doesn't end up following it. But it was interesting because he was so crazy in the previous meetings that
I'm like, fucking really? Like, I know it's slim pickings, and I know that he helped you out before, but him?
And it's not because he isn't intelligent.
No.
He's emotionally unintelligent, and that compromises him. And then we get the wonderful follow-through on the joke.
Yep. She remembered what it was. She sets it up. And it's fucking dumb. It's dumb, and they point out that it's dumb, and I'm like, I get your purpose here, but also just...
What is the purpose? What's the purpose of his joke that you got out of this all? Because this is something that They set up and now they've paid it off. And they stay on that scene after the joke is said of like, well, it used to be funny is the thing.
Yeah, it used to be funnier. And I'm struggling to like piece the bits together.
Because
it's referring to a couple of things, and mostly the faulty way that Earth sees the belt. But there's like other parts to it, but I'm like,
it's laughing at the disenfranchised.
yeah.
Oh,
It's punching down.
The punchline of the joke is the Belters have no resources to make anything good. They suck.
Anything.
They don't make anything. They have none. And it's funny because, ha ha ha, we're the ones that put them in this situation. But it's no longer funny now that the Belters
because they've struck back
and put them in their place and reminded them of the injustice that's been put upon them. This joke is a bigoted joke. And it's no longer funny now to the bigot now that he has been put in his place a bit and realizes the inherent cruelty within the joke itself. And Christian is just sitting there like, bitch, I learned this 3 seasons ago. I'm glad you're catching up right now, but thank you for being on my page.
But you still want to go kill Marco, and you still believe that Earth is better than everybody else.
If we go toe-to-toe with him, we could lose. I need your help.
Someone's going to kill Marco Narus. And I'd really like for it to be me.
Now we have reached the point, Rachel, in which we have to
give our rating, which is on a scale of yum to yum yum. Yum being bad, yum yum being good. And where does this episode land for you, Ryan?
Yum yum.
Yum yum.
How do you rate this episode?
Yum yum for me too.
Yum yum.
It is solid. It's grown on me. I really like the Amos stuff and the Avaslara stuff. The Rossi stuff is fine. It doesn't grate on me as much as it has in others. I'm lumping Rossi and the Razorback kind of together there. And Naomi stuff is much better than last episode.
What is the final episode of season 5, Rachel? What's the title of it? We haven't read anything about it. We are just going to hear the title and then we're going to make our guesses, but I need to know what it is.
Nemesis Games.
The name of the book, I imagine? They usually leave the name of the book for the final episode of a season. That has tended to be the track record here. Nemesis Games. And just mentioning the title of the book, this has been the season in which I've thought about this being an adaptation of the book the least. There's been 1 or 2 little moments where I've thought about, I wonder how this works in the book. But for the majority of this season, it's not really come to my mind.
I just double checked that it was the name of the book. And I did get a detail about Philip, which is, I know his age in the books now.
How old is he?
15.
Yeah, times it by 2. I'll believe you.
Yeah, I'm pretty
I know
sure.
the guy's not actually 30, but he looks like 26 years old.
I wasn't trying to look.
Okay,
but
so what is your predictions on the finale?
Avaslara is going to get into office and try and fix things. I think there's going to be some sort of problem with Amos getting to Luna. And I think Clarissa is going to die, maybe from complications of her mods.
Okay.
I think I think Naomi's going to survive. I think she's going to do what you were saying earlier and try jump ship with the helmet kind of acting as a homing beacon so that they go after her and not towards the ship.
Oh, good. Yeah, home baking thing. Yeah, that's nice.
And I think Alex and Bobby are gonna be useless.
No, that can't be. How do you think it will end? Like, what do you think the final note of the season will be? The cliffhanger, or how they just tie a little bow?
Dawes arrives.
Oh my god! Don't tease me.
No.
Don't
No.
tease.
I think it's going to be. I think our last little bit is going to be Marco again.
How so?
I don't know exactly, but I just feel like it's going to still be him.
Okay. Do
I
you
don't know
think
if
he'll
it's gonna be-
survive the season?
Yes.
Okay. They've set him up too well to just suddenly die.
Yeah, especially because it's the second last season. I just feel like he's
Doubt,
going to.
So I'll
carry over.
work backwards. So I'm also thinking this season will end with Marco, and it's about how he survives whatever bullshit he's in. I think the tide of things are going to change for him in a way in which he'll have to run. And I think he has the proto molecule because that's left in the air.
Yes.
And I think him running with the proto molecule through,
the Free Navy's going to fall apart, I think.
or they're going to retreat through the ring gate.
Oh, yeah.
And I think what's going to happen is
I won't be
bringing
kind
the
of Canadian with that.
Oh, yeah. Bringing the proto molecule, the final piece of proto molecule through the ring gate
And
is going to
activate
be
the red creatures.
That's how we're gonna end the season of like, oh, Marco through his cowardice and egotistical nature pisses off intergalactic beings to save his own skin, and he doesn't even know it. I think that would be an interesting way to end it. Now, for the rest of it, I think Naomi is going to jump ship, and Bobby and Alex are going to save her. At the last minute, she's going to survive. I think Holden is going to have a weird standoff with Drummer. Drummer and her crew are going to rise up, fight back, take over the ship, but at a cost, because there is a cost, because they have one of their people on the main ship of Marco, and I think he's going to kill that guy.
Oh, yeah.
And doing so would probably break apart the family, because Drummer chose Naomi over the family in the way. Chose Naomi over the crew. But where does that leave Drummer? I think Amos and Clarissa are going to, and Eric and all that, are going to make it to Luna. They're going to meet up with Chris Jen, and it'll be fine. I don't know. I actually don't know what they're going to get up to, because they did tease Clarissa is knocked out, but she's the person who knows how to fly the ship. So that's going to be a problem. Maybe they're going to have a little bit of a iffiness. Do you think the crew will be back together by the end of the season? Like, do you think they will have reunited?
Not completely. I think Naomi and Holden and Alex will be together, but I don't think
Bobby.
Amos will be there.
Yeah, Amos is going to be,
I think,
on Luna.
Yeah.
Right? So, unless they somehow go to Luna, I don't know. It's kind of...
Yeah. We might get a little bit of a time jump within the episode as well. I'm not discounting that possibility either.
And any series-long predictions after what we've viewed here?
Nothing new.
I feel that Jules Pierre Mao will return in some way, even if it's one episode appearance. They've mentioned him so much.
Yes. Like, his presence is still felt.
And I feel like outside of
Clarissa escaped from prison.
And I feel like outside of Cortazar, who Marco has.
He's a resource to...
Mao's the only other person with extensive knowledge on the protomolecule in the galaxy at large.
True.
I hope that's the case, because I would at least like...
You want him back.
Some resolution between the father and daughter.
To see them together.
But that is my big series-long thing outside
have we
of...
seen them?
No, only in flashback. Only in flashback where he told her that she sucks.
I just want a confirmation.
Do you think that we'll see any old faces again before the series ends? Like anyone that we've left behind? Oh, here's one final prediction for next episode. Really curious of how Murtry's going to be in it, considering he's on the fucking DVD cover for the season and the menu for the season. We haven't mentioned that at all. His face is plastered all over the 5th season's promotional stuff on the Blu-ray, on the menu, in the chapter selects, but he hasn't shown up.
I've been ignoring that.
Do you think that they didn't have more promotional stuff for season 5 and they just they used whatever leftovers and Bern Gorman's face is just there on the Blu-rays?
Don't.
Because
No.
having owned Babylon 5 on DVD, there's a lot of fuck-ups that people make when they do the physical release of stuff. But on the menu is where the weird one is. Like, I could forgive on the DVD, on the Blu-ray cover, but on the menu, Bern Gorman's there. So is he going to be in the next episode as, like, unexpected return of bad guy?
We'll find out.
We'll find out. Rachel, how about you take us home?
If you want to find out our reaction to whether or not that happens, and you're listening on the main feed, go over to Patreon. It's super easy to sign up, and we love having your support, obviously financially, but also your voices in our community Discord.
Or just on videos we make, or
our
posts.
episodes of our Expanse coverage are released there first. So if you head over there now, you will have all of that season 6 as well as the finale of season 5 to listen to our discussions on.
There's so much other bonus content over on our Patreon as well that you may get a kick out of. We've talked about a bunch of Star Trek stuff that doesn't get to the main feed, a whole bunch of different movie series, and there's just a whole, bucket loads worth of material. In fact, there's many buckets worth over there.
So many buckets now.
So many buckets filled. You can find us on...
I think we're at the stage where we need to upgrade the analogy from buckets to bathtubs.
Wow. Okay. I thought you were going to say caskets, but there you go. Barrels. There you go.
Barrels?
Rachel, if you were a barrel, what would you have in you? Rachel, if you were a barrel, what would you contain?
I don't want to answer that on mic.
Wow. Wow.
That's a really deeply personal question.
It is actually deeply personal to ask my wife, what would you have inside you? On the pod. You're right. It is actually deeply personal. And now Rachel's hand is over her face. Make sure to check out our social medias. Make sure to email us. Make sure to comment.
I'm like, oh my God, what if anybody at my work listened to this, including my students?
Rachel, I'll send it to the principal first thing in the morning. I have the email address because I have your email. I can access that. The sound bite will just be that, and then you'll get a promotion? Weirdly?
See you then. Well, voila.